Yam Karunalaya Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Eshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavathaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshabhir Yajatraha Sthirairangai Shushtvagam Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashrabaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastakshyo arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti 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 Nanya Pantha Vimuktaye and Nanyena Hetuna Yati. Purusha Suktam also tells us the same thing. Nanya Pantha Ayanaya Vidyate. To gain this, there is no other path, no other way. After doing all this, somebody can still ask the question, which path? How do we get this? In the line he says, Yatva tam yatva. Kim yatva? Sa eva sarvam. Yad bhutam yascha bhavyam. Sanatanam. Saha, he himself is everything. This knowledge, when it's absolutely firmed up, assimilated, to realize that all this while I was thinking I am bound. Now I'm beginning to understand that I am not bound. This body is bound by time, mind is bound by time, all my senses are bound by time. They will change and they will disappear. But I am not bound by any of the three factors, not by time, not by space, and not by any vastu. I cannot say I am here, therefore what happens? I am not elsewhere. That is being bound by time, bound by space. I am today here, yesterday I was not here, bound by time. 100 years ago I was not there, bound by time. Million years ago I was not there, bound by time. And I am this Sharira. Therefore, I am not anything else. All this comes from not recognizing the fact The body is bound by all the three factors. The mind is bound, the thoughts are bound, the senses are bound, everything is bound. I am not. Saeva sarvam. One who is able to see this aparokshataya. Not that there is, oh, I've understood Brahman. There is something called Brahman. It is infinite. It is everything. That Brahman, I look up in awe. Arshavidyalaya. That Brahman, oh, I cannot be the Brahman. I said, no, you are. How? That whole teaching is only that. How is it that I am not bound? If I was really bound, it is not like somebody is bound in a chain, you can remove the chain. If you are really bound, you cannot unbind it. That's what you are. Being bound is only a notion. Because I think I am bound, I am bound. It's like, when athletic coaches train people, one of the things they do, especially these days, they use a lot of psychology. This fellow he's a high jumper. He's already jumped 6 feet 3 inches. The coach raises it 1 more inch. He's a jump. He looks at it, my God, how can I do that? I can't jump. The moment that thought comes, he's gone. He can't jump. It's a thought. There the coach works very hard to not let that thought come in. He makes sure that he can raise it to the next level and reach there. That is the job of the Guru. That is the job of Shastra. To make us understand that the feeling that I am limited, the feeling that I am bound, the feeling that I am subject to sorrow, these are all only feelings. As long as that feeling remains, I am bound. Not in reality, but I am bound because there's nothing I can do. If I take some crutches to get out of the binding, the crutches only reconfirm that you are bound. Crutches is not the help. Only one hetu. To repeatedly try and understand, repeatedly listen to the Shastra, contemplate upon what one hears in the class. Till such time. How long? Till such time clarity emerges. So you will find that within this text or any other text you take, the same thing is repeated over and over and over again, in different ways, in different methods, different styles, different prakriya. You will also find that we study so many different texts. All of them say exactly the same thing. And yet we have to study so many different texts because this text looks at it from perspective one prakriya, this text looks at it from another perspective. One of them hopefully will click and then we can recognize all the others. And in the class, sometimes the student might get a feeling, he keeps on repeating himself, saying the same thing. He said that 3 classes ago, he's saying the same thing again. He said the same thing when you were doing the other text. Punuruktam. Punuruktam na doshaha, Shankaracharya says. Not only na doshaha is required. Without that punuruktam, that subject does not get it. Nanyena hetuna can one gain this. It is only the clarity of the knowledge of something that's already established, which clearly tells us you are not bound. You are absolute. Neither time, nor space, nor any vastu can be a limiting factor. So even within a text, we've done all these verses so far. Brahmaji started by saying, Shraddha Bhakti Yoga Tavehi. And he went on and on and on. And remember, Ashvalana is not a small person. Ashvalana is a great scholar. Rigved Acharya. Even for him, the teacher says the same things repeatedly. And then in these final verses that we have studied so far, he makes it clear. Saeva sarvam. Hey Ashvalayana, tvameva tat, tvameva sarvam, yad bhutam yatcha bhavyam. Can you see that? Even Ashvalayana probably looked a little uncertain. So Brahmaji went on. Sarva bhutastam atmanam. Sarva bhutani cha atmani. Sampashyan brahma paramam. One who can see clearly, despite the apparent differences, despite visual thought processes, other intangibles, everything being different. Shapes, sizes, colors, sounds, being variegated. In all this, the one who is able to see that there is only one Atma. That Atma is you. Sarva bhutastam atmanam, sarva bhutani chatmani, sampashyan brahma paramam, yati nanyena hetuna. In Bhagavad Gita, you use a slightly different second line. Ikshate yoga yuktatma. He who sees it clearly. You know, it's like 2 days ago, I had gone for a function. And I met somebody who was in class together with me back in school. Back in school means I'm talking about 1950s and 1960s. Subramaniam. And I was thinking to myself, not one thing do I remember as I remember him, he's there now. Not one. He must be thinking the same thing. This person I knew was a very different person. Today he's got white dadi and orange clothes. This is not the person I knew. And yet we were able to shed all these apparent differences and recognize in that the same person. What, 60, 65 years ago, I knew him. Everything has changed. But something has not changed. This is called Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Every word that you see has a vachartha, an immediate meaning, and a lakshartha, something that is unchanging right through. The ability to see that this portion of it, which is changing, which has changed, is not what I'm looking for. That Subramaniam I knew, I'm able to mentally discard all the changes and yet recognize the same Subramaniam. 60 years later. In everything that you see in this Jagat, when you're able to see the apparent difference, the differences don't go away, they are there. There is no physical separation of the differences, the differences remain. Like I said, this is one form of laya. Atyantalaya, nothing changes except your knowledge. Where you are seeing the totality of that, the unchanging and the changing portion together, you are now able to cognitively separate the changing portions. Not physically, they cannot be removed. They are there. And see the vastu for what it is. And having recognized that vastu, without an element of doubt, recognize in that vastu I. Aparoksha jnana. There are several steps of difficulty in this whole process. In the first place, our own preconceived notions are so strong that they take a lot of effort and time before they can, logic and thinking, before they can be corrected. Even after that correction, doubts keep reappearing. Somebody else says something which sounds logical. And many times you are not able to refute what that person is saying. Think like that, something is right in what he's saying. So you have to do more contemplative thinking, maybe more Shravana. And then when one is ready, one can then see that I can separate these two. The changing component, that's what we call Bhagatyaga. You remove that portion, that bhaga, which is changeable, which cannot exist without the unchangeable, without the absolute. And be able to cognitively separate it. Even after that understanding, There is a certain conditioning we have. The mind finds it difficult to say that unchanging portion is I. Hey, that unchanging portion, changing portion, both are his. How can you say it's I? More Shravanam. Different types of texts, different perspectives to try and understand, different examples to understand. We saw in the example of the gold shop, thousands of varieties. The gold chain buyer sees all those varieties. I like this chain, I don't like this chain. This chain is too chunky, this chain is too delicate. And all these chains are different from the bangles in the next window. Sees all the differences. Stops there. These are all the changing portions of what? Of the same substratum we call gold. In and through all of these changing components, I see that unchanging substratum we call gold. These changes are only apparent. Within that universe of gold and gold ornaments, these are mithya. The chain doesn't exist on its own. The bangle doesn't exist on its own. This is relatively easy to understand because both gold and gold chain, gold ring, gold bangles, etc. belong to the same order of reality. When you start looking at Atma, the self, we are talking about two different orders of reality. And we are so used to this order of reality called the Jagat that we see everything through that lens only. We see only the changing portion. Like the lady who went to buy the chain. Our famous bullion trader also sees all the differences. He sees this chain is a very delicate chain. This chain is a chunky chain. This chain is different from the bangle, different from the ring. But in and through all of them, his viewpoint is gold. He sees all the differences and yet he sees gold. Without separating the changing portion and unchanging portion. He doesn't have to melt the whole thing into one lump of gold to say it's gold. He sees only gold. So in this context, in these last 10-12 verses, Brahmaji has told Arshavidyalaya everything that needs to be told. The Upadesha, if you read it again, is very clear. And it doesn't settle down. It doesn't settle down for many reasons. I am not able to see, maybe because I have not prepared my mind. I am not able to see E equals MC squared and understand what it means because I am not prepared myself. I am not able to see what this sentence means. Sayeva sarvam. And read it as ahameva sarvam. I stop short. My preparation is not complete. Prevents me from absorbing that knowledge. Our concept of this Jagat is dual. I and everything else, including Ishvara. That's how we work. That's the framework. I and all else. All else are we have grown up, all of us, hearing words like Atma, Brahman, Adhyatma, Dharma, Karma. And we read some book, somebody written by somebody, Karma Kola. There was one book like that many years ago. And we developed some kind of an idea of what it is. Moksha. Even Veda, Vedanta. What is it? We develop certain ideas. For us, in this whole context of the Jagat, every object has an object and a name and the meaning of the name. You say an apple, you get a certain meaning. And the meaning is more or less the same for everybody. But when you say Brahman, what is the image you're getting? There is no image. And even if you get an image, it's different from everybody. That's why words like God are very dangerous words. Sin, God, because everybody has a different image for that word. Every word has a meaning. And we assign that meaning. It's all artificial. We give that word. In Sanskrit, we derive words. We have a lot of dhatus from which we keep deriving more and more words. I remember one of the earliest classes Dr. Mahalingam was taking. He said, Danda is a rod. And tube light, what? Deepen Danda. Like that, you keep deriving more words. And that word has a certain meaning. And you can't separate them. The word and its meaning you cannot separate. Problem is with something like Brahman, we make up our own meaning. Kalidasa writes, Vagartharthiva sampraktau Vagartha pratipattaye Jagatam pitarau vande Parvati Parameshwarau. Vak and its artha, they are inseparable. You cannot have a vak without the artha. You cannot have a word without the artha. That word is then not usable. Swami G's favorite word was gagabugau. No artha. The word. You can concoct your own words. But a word and its meaning have to go together. Nama and Nami, what it represents. Vak, artha iva sampraktau, together, inseparably together. May I understand? May this be understood. Bhagartha pratipathaye. May that be understood. Like the Vag and Artha, he talks about Parvati Parameshwara. Non-separable. Why is it non-separable? This Jagat to us exists. Even after Jnanam, we don't discard the Jagat. Jagat is there. Even after Jnanam, there are pains and pleasures in the body, in the mind. They don't go away. Whole Jagat remains. Mountains remain, rivers remain, everything remains. Therefore, this Jagat has to be explained and understood. If you say there is only one Vastu, how do I understand this multiplicity? This whole Jagat. If there is only one Vastu, that we call Parameshwara. You can give any name. Parameshwara. But if it's only Parameshwara, where am I? What is the earth I'm standing on? Parvati. Shakti. Maya Shakti. Without the Shakti, there is no Jagat. Purusha and Prakriti. They go together. There is no Prakriti without Purusha. So he says, Jagataha Pitarau Vande. Pitarau means Mama and Mata and Pita together called Pitarau. Mata and Pita of the Jagat. Them I do my namaskara. Parvati Parameshwara. Word and meaning are like that. Every word has a meaning. Must have a meaning. There is one word we use all the time. I certainly use it for everything. You would have heard me say Om for everything. Om is everything. Om is a word. That Om must have a meaning, artha. Yo vedadav svara prokto vedante cha pratisthitaha tasya prakatirinasya parasya maheshwaraha. Yo veda, yaha veda adav. That which is first pronounced, swaraha. Yo vedadav svara prokta. That which is first pronounced. What is pronounced first? Before you start anything, before you start saying anything, what do you pronounce? Om. That Om, I have to understand. I don't even understand what Ishvara is. Where am I going to understand Om? Mandukya Upanishad, which belongs to the same Veda as this one, talks about Om. Om is Sarvam. Everything is only Om. Brahman is Sarvam. That is also the same thing. The Bhagavad Gita also, you've seen this. And Bhagavan says, I will tell you in brief, Sangrahena Brahmimi, that which everybody is searching for which every brahmachari is working. That Om, the meaning of which we are trying to figure out. Because we know Om. We see it written everywhere. We hear it everywhere. You can look at Om in many different ways. One way of looking at it is the A, U, Ma covers the entire range of sound production of a human being. Open your mouth, A. Close your mouth, M. In between, all sounds are covered. And this whole Jagat is what? Nama. Sounds. That Om is everything. One way of looking at it. Om is also something that can be derived. Starts from a root word ava, rakshane. To that, our rakshane, you add a pratyaya. Matup. Only makara remains. And grammar rules, samprasara, etc. It becomes aw, va becomes u by samprasarana. It becomes aw, ma. A, u again by sandhi rule becomes o. What have we left? Om. It's just Om. There's nothing else. It is not Aum. No. It is Ekakshara. The other day I was at a function. And one person who teaches quite a lot. He started his speech by saying, Om. That's not it. If you understand what Om is, why do you want to do that? Om. Period. Single akshara. Ava is rakshane, protects. So Om, that which protects, that which sustains, which also includes that which creates and that which into which samhara takes place. Jagat Karanam. Om is Sarvam. Important to understand this. Mandika Upanishad says, Omityetad aksharam idagum sarvam tasya upakhyanam. Om ityetad aksharam idagum sarvam. Everything that is Om. Om is a name. And the meaning of the name is Vastu Brahman. Tasya Upakhyanam. The detailed exposition of that word Om. Bhutam Bhavyat Bhavishyatiti. Just now we saw in the previous verse. Yad Bhutam Yatcha Bhavyam. Sarvam Omkarameva. To us, everything is contained by time. And the Upanishad says, all that is contained in time is nothing but Om. Now you see why I greet somebody, I say Om. Somebody wants to say thank you, I say Om. Somebody wants to say bye-bye, I say Om. Somebody wants some blessings, I say Om. Bhutam bhavyad bhavishyaditi sarvam omkarameva. Does that mean Omkara is bound by time? Because everything bound by time is Omkara. Omkara means only a pratyaya. You don't say Om, you say Omkara. Like Akara, Okara. Sarvam Omkarameva. Doesn't stop there. Yachanyat Trikalatitam. Okay, everything bound by time, past, present, and future is Omkara. Other than that, anything which is beyond time. Swami makes fun of the word beyond. There is no beyond. Anything not covered by the three periods of time, which we find difficult to imagine. Tadapyonkara eva. Even that is Omkara. This is the first verse of Mandukya Upanishad. Having said everything is Omkara, the Upanishad goes on to say, Sarvam Hyetad Brahma. Hey, you're contradicting yourself. You just now said Sarvam Omkara. Now it is Sarvam Brahma. How do we understand this? Omkara is a name, a word. The only way you can understand this is if Omkara is the word for Brahman. Therefore, Omkara is Brahman. Very clear. If everything is Omkara and everything is Brahman, Omkara is Brahman. So what is Brahman? That's also word only. How do you understand Brahman? I have all these words. Achintyam, Avyaktam, Avikaryam, all those words. But all those words still don't tell me that Omkara, that Brahman is I. How do we understand that? Sarvam Hyetat Brahma. Earlier he said, Bhutam Bhavyat Bhavishyaditi Sarvam Omkarameva. Om Ityetad Aksharam Idam Sarvam Omkara. So he's saying, Etat I Brahma. Sarvam Etadi Brahma. Second verse of this Upanishad. Doesn't stop there. Soyam Atma. I am Atma. That Omkara is the same as Brahman. He is you. Atma. The self. Teaching is complete. Everything is Omkara. When he says, Trikalatitaha, space and time are related. That means anything that is, to use the word again, beyond space, not covered by space, is also Omkara. He is Brahman. Tadapi Brahman. Tadapi Atma. And then from there it takes on. We're saying this Atma Chatushpad. You can see it in 4 quarters, as 4 quarters. And goes on to expand on each quarter as the 3 states of being. Something we can understand easily. Jagrat, Swapna, and Shushupti Avastha. And then, in and through all these 3 avatars is you. Another word comes up, Turiyam, means the same. Then Jagrat, in the Jagrat Avastha, the waker is not the same as the dreamer, who is in Swapna Avastha. It's not the same thing as the sleeper, deep sleeper. You cannot be in the Jagrat Avastha and go into dream state at the same time. When you are in the dream state, you cannot be in the waking state. When you are in the deep sleep state, you cannot be in the dream state. Dream state is not the sleeping state. When you are in deep sleep, you don't dream. So if there are 3 different states and 3 different things, what is the connection? Like my friend Subramaniam, I have to remove that which changes and be able to see that which doesn't change across all these avasthas. It is not a 4th state. It is the state which is the only existence, which is there in Jagrat, which is there in Swapna Avastha, it is there in Sushupti Avastha also. And the Upanishad connects Om to this. A lot of detailing there. We'll do this to the Upanishad itself. The Akara of Om is connected to waking state. When both the Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira are available for transaction, you transact with the external world. In the Swapna Avastha, your Sthula Sharira is not accessible. It's avyakta. But you still transact. You transact in a prapancham you create. That is equated to the Ukara of Om. And in this deep sleep state, neither the Sthula Sharira nor the Sukshma Sharira are available for transaction. That's why you're in deep sleep. Only prana remains active. Because you have to get up the next morning. No? You still have karma phala to go through. Therefore, prana remains active. Other than that, everything else is unmanifest. These 3 states, something sustains all of them. That which sustains all of them is given a name called Turiya. That is Omkar. The combination of Aoma or Omkar. There is another name for Omkara. You would have heard children being named Pranav. Pranava is also Omkara. In this Upanishad, Omkara is referred to as Pranava. Like in the Mandukya Upanishad, this Upanishad also takes the same stand of examining the reality using the Avastatraya Prakriya called Avastatraya Prakriya. Examine the three states and what happens in each of the three states and what connects the three states, what sustains the three states. That you understand as I. Being both, like I said, from the Atharva Veda, I have taken a similar approach. But what generally happens? We are unable to separate the changing or changeable from the unchanging. It is so subtle. It is not a physical separation. Can you separate the gold from the gold ornament? Physically, you cannot. But you can understand. You can see in the gold ornaments, you can see the gold, without losing sight of the fact that each of the ornaments is different. Each has variation. What prevents the buyer of the gold chain from stopping at the chain? What prevents us from recognizing Ishvara? Another word, Bhagavan. Our preparation is incomplete. If something is incomplete, how can I complete it now? Ask Bhagavan himself. Bhagavan, may I have your anugraha for me to understand you? That's how we do prayer. Even prayer I find very difficult. So you repeat the name of the Lord. That is why people read Vishnu Sahasranamam every day. Lalita Sahasranamam every day. It's only Sahasranama. Repeat the name of the Lord. You do Nama Sankirtanam. Over and over and over again. People write Sri Ramajayam. Notebooks and notebooks and notebooks they fill by writing the name of the Lord. There is a temple here in the place where we are in Coimbatore, which has no altar, no deity. But it has hundreds of notebooks filled with Sri Ramajayam. So any devotee can come and offer his notebooks so that it just keeps on mounting. Ramanama. Bhagavan recognizes this. Shastra recognizes this. That we have certain limitations to us. So they give us some easy methods. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, we're doing, 12th chapter. Do this. If you can't do this, do this. If you can't even do this, do this. If you can't even do this, do karma phala tyaga. Yarpita mano buddhile arbiche. So recognizes and says that we have certain limitations. So they also recognize that there will come a Kali Yuga. In that Kali Yuga, we are very few lucky ones to be able to sit in a Shravanam. But most people don't even have that opportunity. Even people who do Shravanam, they need the grace of Ishvara. So the Upanishad itself says, not this Upanishad, Kalisantarshana Upanishad, do Nama Sankirtanam. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Repeat over and over again. Nama Japa. By doing that Nama Japa, repeating the name of the Lord, we hope and pray that that name will reveal its meaning. And once you begin to understand the meaning of the word that you're chanting, of the Nama Japa you're doing, it opens all the doors for gaining that jnanam, that Brahma jnanam which Arshavidyalaya is seeking from Brahmaji, which is moksha. So in this Upanishad also, having done the Upadesha, Brahmaji goes to explain this again in some detail, like in every other Upanishad. We'll just read the next verse and then we'll stop today. Atmanam aranim kritva.
Atmanam aranim kritva.
Pranavam chottaranim.
Pranavam chottaranim.
Jnana nirmatanabhyasat.
Jnana nirmatanabhyasat.
Pasham dahati panditah.
Pasham panditah.
We take it up in the next class. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.